Hello again. Every so often, something crops up in the news which triggers in me an overwhelming feeling of nostalgia for the lost past. I'm thinking now of these so-called trunk murders which were so popular in England in the 1920s and 30s. These involved somebody being murdered and the killer then dismembering the body, packing the remains into one or two suitcases or trunks, and then depositing them with the left luggage department at a railway station. I think that I've mentioned before that I used to write a lot for True Detective magazine during the 1980s, and I did a series of articles about trunk murders. In 1927, there was the Charing Cross trunk murder, in which torso and severed arms and legs of a woman were packed into a trunk and left at Charing Cross railway station. Then, in June 1934, a trunk turned up in the left luggage office at Brighton's railway station. It had been left there and began oozing blood and smelling horrible. Inside was the headless, legless, and armless torso of a woman. The legs later turned up in a suitcase in the left luggage office at London's King's Cross station. The arms and the head were never found. Later that summer, another woman's body turned up in a trunk in Brighton. In the description to this video, I give links to these cases. Reading about the events in Bristol, which also involved a leaky suitcase stuffed with dismembered body parts, brought back fond memories of my days as a hack crime writer. It is such a quintessentially English crime. Of course, it would have been even more perfect if the perpetrator of the crime had stowed the suitcase in the left luggage office at a railway station in Bristol, instead of carting it off to the Clifton Suspension Bridge to dispose of. But the fellow charged in connection with the case is a foreigner, so I suppose we ought to make allowances for this breach of the conventions of such crimes. I say crimes, but of course, since the case is technically sub judice, we must not assume that there has actually been a crime. It is entirely possible that the remains belong to somebody who had died of natural causes. We shall have to wait until the trial has taken place before we can say anything really about the affair. Although the alleged crime itself is unremarkable, and in keeping with English traditions in such matters, there are two odd aspects to the business, one serious and the other a matter of mere pedantry on my part. In the description to this video, I give a link to the BBC website report on the case, which mentions that the two supposed victims, who are at any rate both dead now from whatever causes, were homosexuals who shared a flat. Listen to this extraordinary statement by the police. Evidence in the investigation so far has not pointed to a homophobic motive, the Met Police said, but it had been classified as a hate crime under national guidelines. There is no evidence that it is a hate crime, but it has been classified as a hate crime. How on earth can people say such absurd things without anybody challenging them about it? If there's no evidence that there is a homophobic motive, that this was a hate crime, then why on earth has it been classified as a hate crime? We learn too that officers have worked with the Pan-London LGBTQ+ independent advisory group since the identity of the two victims and their sexuality was established. Their advice, expertise and support for the investigation has been extremely valuable. But if there's no reason to suppose a homophobic motive, then the sexuality of the victims is wholly irrelevant. Most peculiar. The other irritating thing about the police statement is that part of it where a deputy assistant commissioner said, whilst inquiries are still ongoing. Why do people talk like that these days? Why do they say whilst instead of just while? Two words mean the same during the time of. Why couldn't the man just say while inquiries are going on? Whilst inquiries are ongoing indeed. Anyway, After some particularly bizarre crimes in this country recently, it is pleasant to see a good old-fashioned type of offence make an appearance in England. Suitcase murders are as English as buttered crumpets for tea and the click of Old Man Willow on the village green.